When a woman treats you like you're worthless, the most dangerous thing that can happen isn't the behavior itself, it's what you start to believe about yourself because of it. Disrespect only becomes powerful when you internalize it. The moment you allow someone else's actions to define your value, you hand over control of your self worth. And once that happens, everything you do starts coming from insecurity instead of strength. Many men fall in the trap of personalizing poor treatment. They assume it must mean they're not attractive enough, not successful enough, not confident enough. But people don't treat you based on your true worth. They treat you based on their emotional state, their boundaries, their level of interest, and what you allow. A woman's behavior reflects her mindset in that moment, not your identity as a man. When you internalize disrespect, you start overcompensating. You become more available, more agreeable, more eager to please. You lower your standards just to maintain connection. And ironically, the more you try to prove your value, the more you communicate that you don't feel valuable in the first place. Attraction fades not because you lack worth, but because you stopped acting like someone who knows it. Self worth is internal. It doesn't come from attention, validation, or how someone responds to you. It comes from how you see yourself and how you live your life. When your confidence depends on external approval, you become emotionally reactive. Every text, every tone shift, every sign of disinterest starts affecting your mood and decisions. That emotional dependency is what keeps you stuck in unhealthy dynamics. Disrespect becomes a mirror, not of who you are, but of what you tolerate. If someone treats you poorly and you stay, you silently communicate that this level of treatment is acceptable. And people will always treat you according to the standards you set through your behavior, not your words. This is why the first step in handling disrespect is not confrontation, it's awareness. You have to separate behavior from identity. Someone losing interest, being cold, or being dismissive does not erase your value. It simply reveals a mismatch in energy, timing, or emotional maturity. The moment you stop internalizing poor treatment, you reclaim your power. You stop chasing explanations. You stop trying to fix how someone feels about you. You become calm, grounded, and selective about where you invest your energy. And that shift changes everything, not just in how others treat you, but in how you experience yourself. A man who knows his worth doesn't beg for respect. He naturally commands it through his standards, his boundaries, and his self control. Never confuse someone's behavior with your value. One can change, the other should never be negotiable. When a woman treats you poorly, the instinctive reaction for many men is to explain themselves, justify their intentions, or try to make her see their value. It feels logical. You think that if she just understood you better, things would change. But over explaining and seeking validation doesn't restore respect, it erodes it. The need to explain comes from the same place as the need for approval. It's driven by the belief that her opinion of you determines your worth. So instead of staying grounded, you start negotiating for basic respect. You clarify your feelings, you defend your actions, you try to prove that you're a good guy, and without realizing it, you place yourself in a lower emotional position. Validation seeking changes the dynamic completely. It shifts you from being a man with standards to a man asking for permission to be valued. The more you try to convince someone to respect you, the more you communicate that you don't feel worthy of respect without their agreement. That energy is felt immediately, not through logic, but through emotional tone. Over explaining also creates emotional imbalance. You're investing heavily while she's disengaging. You're offering depth while she's offering distance. And imbalance kills attraction. People are drawn to those who are centered, not those who are trying to earn acceptance. There's also a hidden message behind constant explanation: fear of losing her, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being alone. And fear is not attractive. It makes your words heavier, your presence tighter, and your behavior reactive. Instead of being authentic, you start performing for approval. The harsh truth is this: someone who disrespects you already knows what they're doing. They don't need more information, they need boundaries. No amount of emotional explanation will change how someone treats you if they don't already value your presence. Respect is not created through communication, it's created through behavior, through what you tolerate, what you walk away from, and how you carry yourself when things don't go your way. When you stop explaining and start observing, you gain clarity. You see whether someone is capable of meeting your standards without you having to negotiate them. The strongest men don't argue for their worth. They live in a way that makes disrespect feel out of place. They don't beg for understanding. They let their absence speak louder than their words. And here's the paradox: the moment you stop seeking validation is often the moment respect returns. Not because you demanded it, but because you stop giving your power away trying to earn it. Stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from misunderstanding you. When someone treats you like you're worthless, the natural reaction is to feel angry, hurt, or defensive. You want to confront them, prove them wrong, or make them understand how they made you feel. But reacting emotionally keeps you trapped in the same dynamic that caused the disrespect in the first place. The real power doesn't come from fighting for better treatment, it comes from emotionally stepping back. Emotional detachment is often misunderstood as coldness or indifference. In reality, It's the ability to care without being controlled. It means you stop letting someone else's behavior dictate your emotional state, your decisions, or your self image. You're no longer seeking approval, revenge, or closure. You're simply choosing peace over emotional chaos. The moment you detach, the power shifts, not because you're trying to manipulate the situation, but because you're no longer feeding it. Disrespect thrives on reaction. It feeds on emotional energy, arguments, explanations, and attention. When you remove that energy, the dynamic collapses on its own. Detachment also brings clarity. When you're emotionally invested, you rationalize poor behavior. You make excuses, you hope things will change, but when you step back emotionally, you see things as they are. You see patterns instead of moments. You recognize whether someone respects you or just enjoys access to you. There's also a deeper level to detachment, self respect. When you detach, you're telling yourself that your emotional well being matters more than maintaining a connection that drains you. You stop trying to fix people. You stop trying to save situations. You stop trying to earn what should be freely given. This doesn't mean you become bitter or closed off. It means you become selective. You choose where to invest your time, energy, and emotional presence, and that selectiveness naturally raises your value, not because others suddenly change, because you change what you allow. One of the most powerful aspects of detachment is that it makes you unpredictable in a healthy way. When someone expects you to react, explain, or chase, and you don't, it disrupts their assumptions. It forces them to reassess how they treat you because the old pattern no longer works. But even if they don't change, you still win because detachment isn't about controlling them, it's about controlling yourself. It's about no longer giving front, row access to people who don't treat you with basic respect. When you detach emotionally, you stop trying to be valued and start living like you already are. And that internal shift is what turns weakness into quiet strength. The moment you stop reacting is the moment you take your power back. Most men think boundaries mean confrontation, long conversations, or dramatic ultimatums. They imagine having to explain how they feel, justify their standards, and convince someone to treat them better. But real boundaries are much simpler than that. They're not speeches, they're decisions. And the strongest boundaries are enforced quietly without emotional noise. A boundary is not about changing someone else's behavior, it's about deciding what behavior you will no longer accept in your life. When a woman disrespects you and you argue, explain, or negotiate, you're still giving her access to your time and emotional energy. You're communicating that she can cross your line and still keep your presence. That's not a boundary, that's tolerance. The most powerful boundaries don't come with warnings, they come with consequences, not punishment, not revenge, just distance. When someone treats you in a way that goes against your standards, you reduce access, you pull back emotionally, you stop initiating, you invest your energy elsewhere, and you do it calmly without anger or resentment. Drama keeps you stuck. The more emotional the confrontation, the more invested you appear. It turns a simple issue into a power struggle. Instead of being about respect, it becomes about ego, pride, and who's right or wrong. And once you're in a power struggle, you've already lost the grounded position. Silence and distance, when used correctly, are not manipulative, they're self protective. They communicate that your presence is conditional on how you're treated. You're not trying to teach someone a lesson, you're simply honoring your own standards. Another important point is that boundaries don't require explanations. You don't owe anyone a detailed justification for your self respect. The more you explain, the more you invite debate. And debate keeps you emotionally engaged with someone who already crossed your line. Strong men don't announce their boundaries, they live them. Their actions make their standards clear. If someone respects them, they stay. If not, access is reduced. No speeches, no threats, no emotional performances. This approach also protects your emotional energy. You're not draining yourself trying to fix people or situations. You're redirecting that energy toward your growth, your purpose, and your peace. And when your energy is no longer easily available, people naturally treat it with more respect. Boundaries are not about controlling others, they're about controlling your availability, and the calmer you enforce them, the stronger they become. Respect doesn't come from what you say, it comes from what you're willing to walk away from. When someone disrespects you, arguing feels like the natural response. You want to defend yourself, explain your side, or make them understand what they're doing wrong. It feels productive, like you're standing up for yourself. But emotionally, arguing keeps you locked into the same dynamic. You're still engaged, still invested, still seeking a different reaction from the same person who already showed you how they feel. Arguing is emotional participation. It means they still have access to your energy, your attention, and your time. Even if you're upset, you're still giving them what they want most, relevance. And relevance is power. The more you argue, the more you show that their behavior affects you, and the more leverage they have over your emotional state. Walking away does the opposite. It removes emotional access. It communicates without words that you value yourself enough not to stay in situations that drain you. There's no need to prove anything, no need to win a debate. The absence of your presence says more than any argument ever could. The reason walking away increases attraction and respect is simple. It signals self worth. It shows that you don't need validation from someone who treats you poorly. You're not trying to convince anyone of your value. You're living as if it's already established. That confidence is rare, and rarity creates respect. When you walk away calmly without anger or bitterness, it also creates emotional contrast. Suddenly, the person who felt comfortable devaluing you is faced with your absence. There's no argument to distract from that reality, no emotional noise to hide behind, just space. And in that space, reflection happens. Arguing keeps the focus on the problem. Walking away shifts the focus back onto you. It makes your presence something that can be lost. And people only appreciate what they're capable of losing. There's also a deeper psychological effect. When you argue, you're trying to change their perception of you. When you walk away, you're changing your perception of yourself. You're reinforcing internally that your standards matter more than their approval. And that internal shift is what changes everything long term. This doesn't mean walking away will always make someone come back. Sometimes it won't, but that's the point. The goal isn't to manipulate people into respecting you. The goal is to remove yourself from situations where respect isn't present. If someone only values you when you're gone, that tells you more than any conversation ever could. Walking away is not weakness, it's emotional leadership. It's choosing peace over ego, self respect over attachment, and growth over familiarity. It's the moment you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And the men who are willing to walk away from disrespect are the men who are never treated as worthless in the first place. At the deepest level, how people treat you is a reflection of who you've become, not what you demand. You can argue, explain, detach, set boundaries, and walk away, but if your internal world is empty, unstable, or directionless, the same patterns will keep repeating with different people. The real solution is not correcting behavior, it's becoming a man who naturally commands respect. When your life lacks purpose, relationships become the main source of validation. You start needing attention to feel valuable, approval to feel secure, and connection to feel complete. That emotional dependence makes you easy to devalue because your energy is accessible, negotiable, and reactive. People sense when you don't have much going on beyond them, and unconsciously they treat you as replaceable. The opposite is also true. When your life is full, when you have goals, structure, discipline, and momentum, your energy changes. You're less available not because you're playing games, but because your attention is invested in something meaningful. You're not chasing connection, you're inviting it into an already solid life. Men who can't be treated as replaceable don't talk about confidence, they live it. They wake up with direction, they train their body, sharpen their mind, and build something they're proud of. They have standards for how they spend their time and who they allow close to them. Their self respect is not performative, it's embodied. This is what creates emotional gravity. People feel it without you having to say a word. When someone enters your life, they feel like they're stepping into a world, not becoming the center of it. And that makes them value access to you more deeply. Being non replaceable isn't about status, money, or looks, it's about emotional independence. It's about being okay with losing people who don't align with your standards. It's about not needing to be chosen to feel complete. When you reach that point, you stop tolerating disrespect not because you're angry, but because it simply doesn't fit your identity anymore. The strongest men don't attract respect by demanding it. They attract it because their life is built in a way that makes disrespect feel out of place. People either rise to your level or quietly remove themselves, and once you become that man, no one ever treats you as worthless again because you stopped living like you were.